Nothing at all. It's another boring day at the office.
Yeah, nothing.
Like every day at the 49ers facility. Absolutely nothing.
What'd you make of this?
Well, the first thing that I thought of was Charles Haley. You have to think about that when you hear the 49ers making a high-profile trade with the Cowboys. Now, I get it. There's a lot of differences. Charles Haley was an all-pro. Trey Lance is a very raw, young player. But the 49ers better hope that this ends up better than the Charles Haley trade did when they shipped him off to Dallas back in 1992. So that's the first thing I thought of. Just from a practical business standpoint, though, you can't focus on what you paid for Lance 2 years ago. You have to operate in the now based on the evolving situation. And the 49ers, by all accounts, based on what I've gathered over the past couple days, did not expect to be offered a fourth-round pick. I think if they expected anything, it was going to be lower in the draft, maybe a 6 or 7, plus the complete relief of Trey Lance's contract. So they free up about $6.2 or $6.3 million over the next couple of years. And as we know, they're really, really up against the cap. They need to find ways to save some money over the next couple of years, and this will do that. So just in the vacuum of today, the 49ers feel that they made the best deal they possibly could have made.
As an aside, now I want to get back to Trey Lance, obviously, in a minute. Will this have any impact, the alleviation of some salary, have any impact on Bosa's signing or not?
It's not going to have a direct impact. Everything cap-wise is connected, though, okay. Right? So, if you save some money here, you have more money to do something else.
Yeah.
They had already budgeted for this Bosa situation. I think they're just playing hardball because they're looking at 2024. They're looking at how crowded this situation is going to be, and they want to make sure that they get the best possible deal on their end in terms of Nick Bosa. So, in the big picture, you're saving money here. That could help with something else, but I don't think it's going to be something that makes the Nick Bosa deal happen faster than it otherwise would have happened.
Got it.
Is there a rational way to evaluate a Trey Lance trade? Not the one that got him here, but the one that moves him to Dallas. I mean, maybe you get a fourth rounder who's okay for you for a couple of years. Maybe Trey Lance eventually plays somewhere. But is there any way to be able to say, the 49ers screwed up there, or, boy, they really got something? I mean, we're really talking cat and dog, aren't we?
It's really hard to know because we don't know who Trey Lance is right now. And the problem for the 49ers is that they had no room to find out who Trey Lance was anymore. I mean, Brock Purdy emerged while he was hurt twice in 2021 and 2022. So here you're sitting with Trey Lance, who has a total of 102 career pass attempts. He didn't have a lot of attempts in college, one of the most raw quarterback prospects in NFL history, and there's just a whole lot of unknown. I think in 2022, the 49ers were ready to explore the unknown, ready to see where, Trey Lance could go with the raw talent that he had on a loaded roster, but then he got hurt again, right, with the ankle. So Brock Purdy emerged, and now we're sitting in a position where the 49ers don't have any feasible availability to develop Trey Lance. So we're just sitting in this gigantic shroud of, fog of war, really. And that's why it's so hard to appraise this trade. And I think that's why the 49ers weren't expecting to get all too much in return for Trey Lance, because he still has quite a bit of money on his contract that's fully guaranteed. And it was going to take somebody to, take a chance on Trey Lance. And a fourth-round pick is a chance from Jerry Jones. We've seen the 49ers turn these mid-round picks into good players, and Jerry Jones was just adventurous enough to be willing to send that pick the 49ers' way and also take on Trey Lance's contract.
So in the entirety of the Trey Lance experience, so to speak, from drafting him to developing him or trying to develop him, in your mind, were there mistakes made by the 49ers? And if so, what were they?
Well, I think that the one thing that the 49ers will always be criticized for, and I think it's fair criticism, it just depends on your level of risk aversion, is how they tried to thread the needle with a Super Bowl caliber roster back in 2021. They thought they could have their cake and eat it too, right? Yeah. They thought that they could continue contending for a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, with a veteran quarterback, while also setting themselves up for the future to be good over a longer stretch of time with a quarterback on a rookie deal. So they said, hey, we're going to trade up. We're going to get Trey Lance. He's going to develop behind Garoppolo. They were even planning like package play for him in 2021 before he hurt his finger. And they thought that they could run this dual track kind of system, a lot like what the Warriors and tried to do with James Wiseman and those guys, right? And they thought that, maybe they got too cute with that. At the end of the day, though, the reason, people will argue forever about why it didn't work, but you can't ignore the fact that Lance got hurt twice. And if you're one of those people that thinks that injuries are, just random occurrences that happen on the football field, then it's hard to blame the 49ers for those. But he chipped his finger against the Raiders in 2021. That screwed him up for a whole year. As far as the mechanics went, and that's what he needed the most of, was mechanical improvement. And then obviously he broke his ankle in 2022. So he had 2 seasons where the 49ers had a concrete plan to thread this needle, right? 2021 package play behind Garoppolo. 2022, he was supposed to be QB1 and the roster was supposed to help elevate him. Both of those seasons got wiped out by injuries. So it was an ambitious plan. The 49ers had to be very, very precise with it. And I think the one area where you could criticize the 49ers was that if you look back at this plan, everything would have had to have gone right for it to work, right? Lance couldn't have gotten hurt, not once, but especially not twice. Threading the needle is called threading the needle because you have a very small margin for error. And that error happened. Maybe that error wasn't the 49ers' fault, but the fact that they gave themselves only such a small margin for error might have been their fault based on a miscalculation of trying to make this move. So that's how I'd summarize a really complicated saga.
Yeah. Is there any kind of takeaway lesson for other teams in this? And if there is, what would it be? I mean, it seems like this was such a not unique, but such a rare occurrence where a team that's got a quarterback but perceives it as having a need for later, traded up to take care of their future while they were still in the present. Is there a lesson in that for them, or is this just, are other teams going to look at this as just a weird one-off?
I think the lesson, if teams are smart, is to look at this in an overarching way and look at how the 49ers insulated themselves, because the most remarkable thing out of all of this is that the 49ers gave up so much to get absolutely nothing out of Trey Lance and then just punt on it for a 4th-round pick, right? They gave up so much, yet they're not screwed right now. Yet they're in a position where they're still one of the Super Bowl contenders, where they still have a really strong roster. Normally, when you have this big of an investment go poorly, the team implodes, because that's just how it works in the salary cap area. You have to convert with your draft picks. But the 49ers have done such a good job with the lower round draft picks and how their scouting department works with the coaching staff. And I mean, Brock Purdy's the most emblematic out of all of this. He was literally the last pick in the draft, and he's the quarterback who essentially replaced Trey Lance. So they've done such a good job building up their roster at the margins and building it up with the picks that come with less fanfare, that they were ready to absorb a swing and a miss. And I think maybe one of the reasons why the 49ers did step up to the plate and did take such an aggressive swing on Trey Lance is because they felt so comfortable with the rest of their roster. They thought, okay, even if this doesn't work, we still have a lot of good players that we've acquired at very efficient prices through the rest of our methodology, that we can afford to take this swing. And right now, that thought process is looking good for the 49ers. Yeah. Again, this is a highly, highly unusual situation where they've been able to absorb what I think in almost every other case would have been a disastrous turn of events.
No doubt about it. Hey, David, thank you so much for joining us on short notice. Really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to talking to you and reading your stuff in The Athletic.